evening. I want to call to order the December 3rd, 2012 meeting of the Town Council Parking Authority Successor Agency. I would ask the clerk to please do the roll call.
Good evening and thank you. Councilmember Joe Krasinski.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Rice.
Here.
Councilmember Diane McNutt. Here. Vice Mayor Steve Leonardis.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Barbara Spector.
Here. A couple of reminders. First of all, those of you, which is all of you, who have your cell phones here, please put them on vibrate or turn them off entirely. And secondly, if you are here to speak either in verbal communications or for one of the agenda items, fill out one of these cards, which are probably in front of you, and give them to the clerk over here to my left. I've had one person who's done it already. All right, at this point, we will be doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to have John Jaffrey join me up here. I asked him, well, we may be standing a little early. Where is John? I wanted to tell you a little bit about him before he led the Pledge of Allegiance. John is a fifth grader at Daves Avenue Elementary School. He is a student council officer and straight A student. He enjoys all subjects, but his favorite is math. He volunteers as a safety patrol officer on the school campus. He's responsible for directing and teaching other students about traffic and after-school safety. He plays competitive basketball, lacrosse, and flag football. He enjoys acting. He has performed with the Children's Musical Theater in San Jose. This year is performing in Daves Avenue and Blossom Hill's annual musical, Groovy. He is a great dancer, and it was very important to him that I tell you that he is a Green Team member. Let's have applause for this great guy. Now, as soon as I get this on, and it is, I will hand it to John and ask you to stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's give him a round of applause. That was great. Okay, start down there and shake all the council members' hands. Thank you very much. Another round of applause. We have a couple of presentations this evening. If you happen to have agendas, you'll notice that I'm going to flip the order and begin with the Los Gatos Community Foundation and ask Sharon Childs to meet me up here. I think everybody should come.
Thank you.
All yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, council members, and staff of the Los Gatos. I am Sharon Childs, and these are our wonderful board members of the Los Gatos Community Foundation. The vision of the Los Gatos Community Foundation is to support, strengthen, and enrich the quality of life in the community of Los Gatos. In 2008, under the direction of the late Paul Dubois, we started our Buck a Bulb project and to help the town go green. That year, we were successful in helping the town replace our incandescent lights on our town tree. And by the way, our Christmas tree lighting has been moved to this coming Friday, the 7th at 4:30 because of the recent storm. A few years ago, we continued our relighting efforts by assisting in the lighting of the Main Street Bridge. Tonight, the funds we are donating have been raised through our fundraising efforts and most recently at our annual cotillion. We've also received grants from PG&E. It gives us great pleasure to assist in the enhancement of the community with this check in the amount of $11,300 to help in the downtown tree lighting project. And I'm really excited.
Thank you. Do you have anything else? You want to introduce your friends over
I
here?
would love to. One of our immediate past presidents, Janice McCabe. One of our board members, Joan LeMahieu. Don Callahan, a longtime board member. Our incoming president, Daryl Monda. Our current president, Dueno Giordano. And Nancy, are you hiding over there? Nancy Walker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Community Foundation, on behalf of the entire town council and the entire town. Thank you for making that a beautiful trip up and down Main Street to come to the meeting this evening. Thank you very much. I thought Todd was coming up here to take the check away from me.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this point, we have our second presentation, the Santa Clara County Cities Association. Rania Mosen, Executive Director, will make a brief presentation about the purpose and activities of the Cities Association. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. It's a pleasure to be here today representing the City Association of Santa Clara County. This year I've been visiting all cities in the county, giving a brief presentation about our background and priorities for 2012 in order to build awareness about our organization.
Excuse me, Rania, could you move the mic to point straight at you, please?
Is that better?
Is it being amplified for the TV station?
Okay. Okay, the City Association was founded in 1990 as a collaboration of the 15 cities in Santa Clara County, and it is funded exclusively by the 15 cities. Our budget is about $80,000 per year. Our board of directors is made up of one representative from each city of the county, and as you know, Councilmember Joe Przinski is your current representative on our board. He's also a former president and longtime board member, very well respected and valuable member of our board. Each city has an equal voice on our board, so the voice of Los Gatos is just as important as the voice of San Jose on our board. Our board is an ideal forum for regional collaboration, at which regional stakeholders, nonprofit organizations, and other government entities have the opportunity to present information or requests to all the cities at once. The City Association takes actions and accepts requests for presentations based on its mission and guiding principle. And that is to represent the mutual interest of the 15 cities and to promote cooperation amongst the cities and advocate for positive action to enhance the quality of life for the people of our county. In addition to our board, we're also made up of a number of committees, and we often collaborate with community partners as well. We do have an executive board made up of 6 officers that functions as a steering committee, the Legislative Action Committee, which is very similar to the board and is made up of one representative from each city as well. The Legislative Action Committee supports and promotes legislative efforts initiated by our state and federal delegation to enhance local government. I would like to point out that many tend to confuse the City Association with the League of California Cities, and we actually are not affiliated with the League, but we do collaborate and consider them a community partner. We collaborate with other organizations that advocate on behalf of cities as well. While the League focuses on advocacy statewide, that affects cities statewide, we tend to take positions on legislation that affects cities countywide. As you know, we also have a city selection committee, that makes regional appointments to local agencies and boards. We do have a number of vacancies coming up in January, in case you're interested, on the Recycling, Waste, and Reduction Commission, Bay Area Quality Management District, and Cal ID RAND Board. We often work and collaborate with other organizations such as Joint Venture, Silicon Valley Leadership Group, the Marcola Ethics Center, and the City Managers Association. We consider the City Manager Association Advisory Committee and work closely with them. And through our boards and committees, we do address and take action on issues that have an impact on our cities countywide. Some of them do include supporting the ban on single-use bags and polystyrene food storage containers. I won't review all of them, but we do, as I said, take position on legislation that affects our cities countywide. We have also actively supported pension and compensation reform in collaboration with the City Managers Association. And I would like to point out that we did reduce our dues for the past 2 fiscal years to show support to our cities that are facing budgetary challenges. They've been reduced by nearly 5%, and we will resume the original schedule in 2014. Each year, the City Association does adopt priorities and focus their efforts on realizing these priorities. This year, our priorities included transportation, regional economic development, and supporting innovative schools. We did participate in a number of economic development summits and have focused on encouraging cities to work together instead of against each other in order to promote Silicon Valley. I would like to conclude just by encouraging you to come and support our organization. It's a great way to foster collaboration amongst your peers in the county. We do have 2 annual events. Our next annual event is actually this Thursday, the holiday party. So I thank you for your time, and if you do have suggestions on issues that you would like to see the City Association weigh in on, please do communicate to myself or to your representative, Councilmember Joe Brzezinski. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Closed session report.
Thank you. The council did not meet in closed session this evening.
Now, once again, because more people have come in, if you intend to speak at verbal communications or on any agenda item, please fill out one of these cards and hand them to the clerk to my left here, to your right. Council Town Manager reports. Let's start with the council. Any reports? See none? Oh, Mr. Leonardis.
Just one general comment. I just wanted to thank the public, the staff, all the volunteers that worked hard in the rain this weekend to participate and enjoy the parade, the 56th Annual Children's Holiday Parade. Thank you.
Thank you. Manager matters.
Yes, Mayor and Council, only a couple items. First, the Town Employees Foundation is sponsoring a toy drive with regional partners and community members who would like to drop off toys for families in need for the holidays can drop them off at the library in the Community Development Finance Department before 1 p.m. on weekdays or over at Parks and Public Works in the old White House. Second, as the council is aware, we periodically invite rising talent to join us and be introduced to the council, but tonight we have a special recognition. During the last 5 years of economic challenges, this town has been blessed with a number of projects that have been brought to completion, including the police operations building, the sports park, the pageant grounds, which are currently underway, and most noteworthy, which is the new library, which opened less than a year ago. One individual has been the capital projects manager overseeing all of those projects, and he's bringing one of his own projects on time, on budget today with his retirement. So Bruce Smith is retiring from the town after 24 years, starting as a maintenance worker, rising to facilities supervisor, and then capital projects management for that array of projects I just mentioned. And he is here with his wife, Catherine, and I wanted to ask the council to join with me and all his staff colleagues in recognizing his service to this community. Thank you, Bruce and Catherine, for joining us tonight. Yes. Tonight's Did You Know will be presented by Diane Anderson from the Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce. Diane.
Good evening, everyone. I have to say, I feel kind of silly facing the dais to do this because I know you all know what I'm about to say, and it's really for everyone's benefit here and the TV audience. But nonetheless, here I go. Tonight's Did You Know is all about what there is to do and how to be a great supportive citizen of Los Gatos during the holidays. So we'll start with shopping local, which everybody needs to do their holiday shopping. And when you shop local, you're directly supporting members of our community and helping to maintain the level of municipal services Los Gatos needs to remain the place to live, work, or own a business. Los Gatos businesses hire our neighbors and friends, pay taxes to support our local roads, schools, parks, and libraries, often donate to our children's schools and other worthy community causes. Many of our unique businesses create and define our community and play a role in making Los Gatos a destination location. Shopping local stimulates our local economy and keeps money within the community. And as the editor of the Los Gatos Weekly Times stated, these are the very merchants who sponsor your kids' youth sports teams, support activities at the high school and elementary school, support local charitable organizations that raise funds for the disadvantaged and other worthwhile causes, and employ many of those who live in our community and give back to the community financially through generating sales tax and business fees. And by shopping local, you also help save the planet by reducing car and travel emissions associated with heading out of town. So it's good for the environment as well as our local economy, and we encourage shopping local over the holidays and all year round. Also, holiday carriage rides. The Los Gatos Chamber of Commerce is pleased to be hosting the annual holiday carriage rides. For more than 30 years, the stately horse-drawn carriage rides have meandered through the Almond Grove neighborhood and down North Santa Cruz Avenue. The rides have become a family tradition. Adults who rode with their parents and grandparents are now treating their children to this magical experience. Each year, we're part of engagements, anniversaries, and holiday cheer for more than 2,000 riders. The rides this year started last Friday. You might not have thought so given the rain, but it cleared up for our carriage rides, and they'll continue through December 23rd. Reservations can be made on the Chamber's website or through the Chamber office. And we want to especially thank our generous sponsors, which this year include the El Camino Hospital of Los Gatos and Katsu Los Gatos as our presenting Santa sponsors, Sweeney Mason Wilson and Bosom Worth, Barracuda Networks, Willow Street Pizza, and the Los Gatos Weekly Times as our Mrs. Claus sponsors, and other local businesses at the reindeer, elf, and candy cane levels. Next is Santa in Los Gatos, because the holidays wouldn't be complete without Santa in Los Gatos, and Santa and his elves will be in Town Plaza Park in addition to Friday for the rescheduled tree lighting, which you already heard about. They'll also be there on December 9th, 16th, and 23rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. There's no fee to have your children sit on Santa's lap. However, a donation of $5 is greatly appreciated. You may also bring your own camera to capture the event if you'd like, and pets are invited on December 9th only. On December 8th, you can bring your dog or cat to have their photo taken with Santa at Old Town, and that event is called Santa Paws, and it's from 1 to 4 p.m. on December 8th. Keepsake photo with Santa is $20, and a portion of the proceeds benefit the Humane Society of Silicon Valley. On December 8th, Kings Court Shopping Center, which is located at the corner of Los Gatos Boulevard and Blossom Hill Road, will kick off their annual Festival of Trees. You can enjoy live entertainment, balloon animals, face painting, and more. There'll be photos with Santa Claus in the courtyard for a cost of $10. And local schools and community organizations will be decorating Christmas trees at Kings Court. The public has the opportunity to vote for their favorite tree, dropping votes inside the shops and restaurants at the center. And the top 3 trees will receive People's Choice Awards. That voting takes place between December 10th and December 20th. And last, but certainly not least, is the free valet parking provided by the town of Los Gatos, available during the holiday season. Shoppers and employees alike may take advantage of this opportunity, which began the day after Thanksgiving. It ends on Christmas Eve. The service is available Tuesdays through Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and daily beginning on Sunday, the 23rd of December. You'll find the free valet parking. You can drop off your car on the upper level of the lot located between Elm Street and Grays Lane, just off University Avenue. And for more information on all of these activities, go to the websites that are listed on the slide. The Chamber wants to wish everybody a very happy holiday season and encourage you to shop local. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, anything further?
That concludes staff report tonight.
Thank you. All right, now we get to the consent calendar portion of our agenda, which will be acted upon in a single motion unless someone from the council or the public pulls an item from the agenda. Beginning with the council members, anybody want to pull an item? Seeing no one. Is there anyone from the public wishing to pull an item from the consent calendar? Seeing no one, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, and who seconded it?
I did.
Okay, moved by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Przynski. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, at this point in our agenda, we have verbal communications, where you have up to 3 minutes to speak on an item not on this evening's agenda. I do not have any cards for verbal communication, but does anyone want to come on forward and talk to us for 3 minutes or less? See, no one's coming forward. Moving right along. Public hearings. Agenda item 4. 41 North Santa Cruz Avenue, Architecture and Site Application S12023, Conditional Use Permit Application U12016. We will begin with a report from staff, and then the applicant will have his opportunity to present, the public, and then the applicant. I believe that we will have Suzanne Avila.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening. The property is located on the west side of North Santa Cruz Avenue between West Main Street and Bean Avenue. It's in the C2 zone, which is the Central Business District. The building currently houses the Los Gatos Theater and a retail shop. There's a 2-screen theater currently in the building with up to 492 seats allowed by the existing conditional use permit. The theater operation closed at the end of September to allow for the proposed renovations that you're considering this evening. The first part of the application is an architecture and site, and that is for the exterior modifications, which includes addition of a second retail storefront on the right side of the facade that would mirror the one on the left. A small ticket booth would be added between the doors in the recess. The facade restoration is back to a true Art Deco style, and the tile wainscot would be replaced with an Art Deco tile mosaic. Also, a balcony is proposed to be added over the marquee. The second part of the application is a conditional use permit modification to allow special events. Service of alcoholic beverages could be part of a special event upon request. There are 2 possible locations for special events. The primary location is the second floor screening room, and also the main theater could potentially be used for a larger event such as a play or a theatrical musical. The total seating that's proposed is 388. A maximum of 94 would be allowed in the second floor screening room, and the remainder would be in the main theater. The new theater will have a tiered seating, state-of-the-art sound, and the whole interior of the building will be upgraded as well. The Historic Preservation Committee considered the exterior modifications on 3 occasions, once in 2011 and twice this year, the most recent time being on October 10th. The committee recommended approval of some minor modifications. The architect has already incorporated those modifications into the plans, and so the front facade that you see posted on the wall and that it's in your packets does reflect the recommendations of the committee. The Planning Commission considered the architecture and site application first on October 10th, then the architecture and site application and the use permit together on November 14th. The Commission recommended approval with modified conditions, and those are noted on page 4 of your staff report. There was also a desk item that you received this evening, which had 2 letters that came in from the public. And it also has a corrected set of conditions. We had a couple of conditions that had some minor typos, and so those were included in the desk item. The conditions that are attached to the draft resolution for approval aren't correct. The ones that are attached to the desk item are the ones that you should be used. Merits of the proposal include renovation of an important building in the downtown, including the upgrades to the exterior and interior of the building, return to a true Art Deco style, addition of a second retail store, retention of the theater use, a state-of-the-art projection and sound with tiered seating in the main theater, and addition of a special events venue. The council action on the project, there are a number of required findings and considerations that have been attached to the staff report as attachment 9, and those include service of alcoholic beverages after 10 p.m. and findings for approval of the conditional use permit. And that concludes staff's report, and we're available if you have any questions.
Does anyone have questions for staff? Ms. McNutt?
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 questions. So as I'm looking at A4, which is up on the wall, I just wanted to clarify the balcony seating that's indicated to make sure that I understand. So if I talk with the architect when they come forward, let me know. But as you go into the vestibule, there's balcony seating that appears to be above the downstairs theater. Is that part of the main theater downstairs?
No, this seating, yes, this seating here is part of the main theater that you're seeing on the upper portion of the floor plan.
It's labeled balcony seating.
Okay, the balcony seating is part of the main, that is part of the main theater. There is then a screen in the screening room, and there's seating behind that, and also a number of tables and chairs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the area that we're stating could have a maximum of 94.
So what's labeled theater number 2 is what we're referring to as screening room in the documents.
Correct.
And in the documents where it says balcony, it's actually referring to the outdoor balcony.
Yes.
Okay. And then does our current ordinances regarding smoking cover not smoking on the outdoor balcony? Or is that something that we need to specify?
I can't say that if the ordinance does or not. I'd have to read the code, but you could certainly specify that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Leonardis?
Thank you, Mayor Spector. The previous hours of operation for the theater were not, I could not find them in here.
9 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay. And did the previous theater have in their conditional use permit provision for special events?
No, it did not.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a couple then. I was not able to determine by looking at the drawings that we had what the interface access was between the second floor and the main floor. As I looked at it, you went in on the main floor, and if you kept going straight, you went into the main theater. And you had access to the special events room through a stairway to your left. Am I right so far?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other access to the second floor, specifically from the main theater portion of the facility?
There's an exterior stairway that goes up there, and then from the main theater, no. And actually, the architect has been working on this floor plan and is looking for a better way to completely to have the second floor area completely separated from the lower level so that we don't have commingling of events occurring.
Well, and that's my question. How could that commingling occur with the current plans?
It would only occur if people actually wandered up the stairs where they're not supposed to be. But
what stairs?
The interior stairway.
All right, so that's what I'm trying to. There's an interior stairway now.
From the main lobby, yes.
All right. So you would have to, if you wanted to leave the main theater, to go upstairs during a special event and get a glass of wine, you'd have to come into the main lobby, go up the stairs, and go back and forth that way?
Yes, but if there's an event, a special event in the upper level, theater patrons in the main theater wouldn't be permitted to go up and obtain alcoholic beverages.
And how would they not be permitted?
That's, unless they're just in a place where they're not supposed to be, which is a security issue, there'll be a security on the premises to hopefully prevent that from occurring.
And is that something we've conditioned into that?
Yes, and one thing is that we'll be doing an operational agreement with the police department to be getting into the, fine details of, with the specific operator and the management. And the PD will sit down with them and work out all those operational details so that it's specific to this operator.
And then one last question, which I would also imagine the applicant will be addressing, which is, do you have any information one way or the other as to whether or not first-run movies would be allowed when there's the potential for 10 instances a month where they may not be playing?
It's certainly their objective to have a viable business operation, so I do believe that they won't be scheduling events that would prevent them from obtaining first-run movies. I don't know what the rules are, exactly how that works. The ownership group does intend to have a theater operator as well as a special events manager.
Thank you.
And if I might add, Madam Mayor, on the desk item today, if you look at the final proposed conditions, condition number 9 on page 2 says explicitly, alcoholic beverages may not be sold or provided to the public or movie theater patrons who are not attending a special event.
Thank you. And with regard to this, this desk item, are these the conditions of approval as forwarded to us by the Planning Commission?
They were modified based on commission recommendations.
All right, thank you.
And further, the second condition, 10A, prevent patrons from bringing alcoholic beverages and drugs into the theater, and to prevent alcoholic beverages from being consumed outside the second floor screening room.
Thank you. Okay, I have cards, and I'm assuming that if you intend to speak, you've submitted your card, but if you have not, please do so. I am also assuming that Gary Kolstadt is going to be speaking for the applicant, and so why don't you come on up, give us your name. And you will have 10 minutes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the Town Council. 18 months ago, the fate of the Los Gatos Theater was uncertain. The theater was put up for sale. Marketing brochures touted the potential for retail, office, and possible restaurant space, all in the heart of downtown. The thought of losing the only theater in town struck a chord with one local family who quickly formed a small group to purchase this theater. Their intent was to ensure it would remain a historical, community-focused asset to our town. Our vision for the theater is to renovate and reinvigorate this tired gem. Small-town historical theaters all over the country are being transformed into community treasures that do much more than show Hollywood blockbusters. The Stanford in Palo Alto and the Cameo in St. Helena are wonderful local examples. We hope to provide special screenings of Hollywood premieres, develop a family film series, cater to the needs of our local teens, serve as a refuge for local schools with an ambition for live theater, and of course, host the judges of the Holiday Children's Parade and balcony seating. We intend to maintain the integrity of the theater, enhance its offerings to the town, and support the community directly by donating proceeds from this venture back to local community causes. Special events will be enjoyed primarily in a separate screening room on the upper floor of the theater with access to the balcony overlooking North Santa Cruz Avenue on occasion. This setup would allow for 2 movies or events to occur at any given time. The screening room would serve as a more exclusive location to view a movie or stream a television broadcast such as the Kentucky Derby, and this area can hold about 90 people. We envision this space being used for fundraisers, private celebrations, and local events, and anticipate such special events would occur twice per month, but no more than 10 times per month. The facility would offer a bar in the screening room with 1 or 2 bartenders, as well as catered food from local vendors during these events. And I wanted to just clarify, access to this second floor is by a grand staircase from the lobby, which is visible from people running the concessions and staff members. There's also an elevator serving that second floor. I'm happy to answer questions about that later if you want. We are aware of some of the concerns being voiced about this becoming another place to party, be loud, and get rowdy, etc. This will not be the case. We will not be serving alcohol outside these events and do not want to be viewed as a bar. We will have appropriate security measures, including a larger staff on hand during these events. Of course, in keeping with our town's general plan requirements, we are committed to adhering to applicable noise and parking ordinances with all events and don't anticipate an increase in attendance and parking from the present typical theater traffic allowed by the parking assessment district. Outside of special events, the majority of operating hours would see the space functioning as a standard theater, showing movies and selling concessions. That includes 2 theaters and running simultaneously. We plan to operate 7 days a week during the existing operation hours of 12 p.m. and 2 a.m. We believe our plans for the theater will be welcomed with enthusiasm by the community. We have worked diligently with the town over the last year to fine-tune not only the proposed architectural designs, but also the conditions for the CUP. We met with the Historic Preservation Committee 3 times to get the forms, color, signage, and exterior lighting just right. 2 sessions with the Planning Commission helped refine the language and special conditions of approval for the CUP. And we've reached out to the public with social media. If you haven't already done so, I encourage you to visit our website, which is losgatustheater.com. We truly value and respect our local community and town, and we intend to operate the theater in a responsible manner. We are satisfied with the recommendations put forth by the Planning Commission and feel this is a very well-crafted proposal of a potentially difficult project. We couldn't have done this without the countless hours and expertise of staff, as well as the town manager in his office. Our sincere appreciation goes out to them. On behalf of Three Sisters Cinema, we respectively request that a conditional use permit for alcohol service and special events, as per the conditional use permit conditions of approval, be issued for this venue. The fate of the theater now rests in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? I see none. Let me ask you then, to my right, Mr. Leonardis.
Thank you, Mayor Spector. Looking at your plans, I didn't notice any food prep area. Is it your intention to have all the food catered for all these special events?
Yes, it is. No food will be prepped prior, except for popcorn and those kind of things for the regular movie theaters.
Out of the concession stand, is that correct?
That's correct.
So, follow-up question. How would you manage serving alcohol and also providing food with the alcohol in accordance to our alcohol policy with that kind of an arrangement, being that I think you're planning on serving alcohol till midnight on Friday and Saturday? Can you get caterers to work that late for you?
Yes, we will.
To accommodate that?
Yes.
And one other question I had, if I may, not related to the food. The balcony seating, this is kind of a unique idea. I don't think I've seen this in any movie theater. How did you come about that idea for this particular theater?
So I assume you're referring to the balcony seating that is part of the main theater.
I'm sorry, the second story exterior balcony seating.
Oh, the exterior balcony.
Yes.
That was a brainchild of one of the members of this ownership group, and he thought that was just a wonderful idea to extend that action that's going on within the theater and within this business to the street and then to enjoy the beauty of Los Gatos on the downtown.
From your research with this project, are there any other instances of seating such as that in a theater application?
Well, no, because the balcony is not really part of this theater. When there's movies going on, the balcony will not be open. The balcony is only going to be open during specific special events that would be appropriate for this space to open up onto the exterior.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? Ms. McNutt?
Thank you, Mayor. This isn't a question, but for clarification as we go through the conversation tonight, I think it would be helpful if we refer to the outdoor balcony as the outdoor balcony, as opposed to the balcony, which is the indoor balcony, because I can see us getting confused, and we probably need to clean that up once we get to the next phase of the hearing.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
All right, with that clarification, I have a couple of questions. First of all, the elevator, where is that located, or where is it supposed to be located?
The elevator is shown on the floor plan, first floor plan and second floor plan.
Can I ask the clerk's office to pull up the Elmo and to show page A4 from the plan set? That was part of the packet.
We can zoom in too, right? Joel. Thank you. Okay, this makes things easier. Thank you, Greg. I'll just do this. This is the covered entry off the sidewalk that currently exists, and when you walk into the lobby, we've expanded the size of the lobby. There's a concession stand immediately opposite the doors, so you see that food and you go get it, right? So please buy the popcorn. There's a staircase that opens up that goes here and goes upstairs, and that goes up to the second level. This could be roped off. This could be manned by security, making sure that the events are separated. Over here, there's an elevator. That elevator comes up, obviously, right over there. So on the second floor, we've got this top of the staircase. We've got this hallway, and then the elevator. There's a restroom on either side for the second floor. So patrons do not need to go downstairs for any reason other than to leave or to go see a movie. So in the second floor, there are two doors that can be locked and manned, and well, not locked, but secure, because you can't lock a door. Right? But we also have an exterior balcony, emergency escape balcony, and stairs that go to the outside. This is our second means of egress to get out. But I think if you're asking where the only means to get up and down are the elevator and the staircase, which are in direct visual policing and contact of the lobby.
Thank you. And going back to Ms. McNutt's questions about the inside balcony, how do you access that?
This inside balcony would be used for overflow if the movie got very crowded. This could also be a standing room only. It's designed to have flexible seating. It's raised up a little bit over the fixed tiered seating, and it is accessed from the second floor from these two doorways.
And is it anticipated that the upstairs balcony will also be potentially an area for eating and drinking while you're watching a movie?
Only during regular movie hours, and this is open if you wanted to come up and see this movie versus this movie. When there's an event going on here, this section of balcony will not be open.
All right, thank you. Other questions? Seeing none, you will have another opportunity after the folks speak to come up and rebut anything you want to rebut.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the first card I have, and each of these individuals will have 3 minutes, is Mike Verga.
Hi, my name's Mike Verga. I live downtown with my family at 46 Broadway, my wife and grade school children. My concerns isn't necessarily specifically with the theater, but it's kind of a concern over the downtown development. With the recent approval of Katsu, expansion of Gardino's with a full bar, approval of a new restaurant with a full alcohol service and what was previously retail space, and now the theater requesting alcohol service and staying open till 2 a.m. Downtown is turning into, I feel, an extremely alcohol-intensive area. My concerns include having all our police services concentrated around the bars and drinking downtown, while patrolling the rest of town sometimes goes uncovered. If you check police records, on any given weekend, Los Gatos may have nearly as many DUI arrests as the whole city of San Jose. I moved my family downtown with the idea that there would be many family-related activities, and this theater may have those, and I'm not directly opposed to that, but I do have concerns for, again, the direction of everything seemed to be expansion or including alcohol service. I'd like to know, what is the message being sent to the community's young people? Everything downtown is moving toward another alcohol serving venue or alcohol serving expansion. I am requesting council to postpone any decision on the theater's changes until a true cumulative assessment is done regarding downtown and its alcohol-related decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Varga? No, thank you. Verga, sorry. All right, we have a card. Call up Lee Quintana. All right, Lee, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Lee Quintana, 5 Palm Avenue. I know you've probably read my very lengthy letters. You're probably tired of reading them. I'm tired of writing them, actually. But I really do want this movie theater to succeed. I think it's an important part of Los Gatos. I love movies, and I can only drag my husband to movies if they're close by. However, I would ask that you continue this CUP, return it to staff and the Planning Commission for further work and definition of the uses and the conditions. CUPs, the applicant wants flexibility for his CUP. CUPs call for specificity rather than flexibility. And, or otherwise, the uses would be allowed by the underlying zoning. I also ask that you not separate the CUP and the ANS because they are connected. I'd like to just relate an experience that I had over Thanksgiving in Oregon, where I went to visit my son and his wife for Thanksgiving. They decided to go to the movies on a Wednesday night and said, let's go, it's 45 minutes, we better get there soon or we won't get a seat. And I'm going, 45 minutes ahead of time? Response, Mom, don't worry, just go. We went. This is downtown, a small town. We walked across the street to a theater, 2 small theaters, very small theaters, smaller than our theater. We walked in, paid for our tickets, ordered some food from a very restricted menu, went to sit down in the theater. We were already taking up the 4 of the last 6 seats. The food was delivered to us, and we had 35 minutes to eat and meet the people around us and socialize. It was a very small town, friendly experience. They did serve wine and beer prior to the showing of the movie, as the food stopped then too. Just a thought. A couple of things I wanted to add. The conditions that they're stated do not clearly state that both movie theaters will be operated at the same time. Also, they're not very specific as to the exact uses and the conditions on the uses. And as has been shown by the Planning Commission and your questions, there still seems to be a lot of details that have not been worked out. Please continue this.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Quintana? Seeing none. Jack Van Naden? Mr. Van Naden, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Jack Van Naden, Los Gatos Community Alliance. I would first like to state that I am for this theater and like several of the proposals, but I have a couple of concerns regarding the increased use of the theater. The downtown via either Santa Cruz Avenue, East Main, or University will be impacted by the additional traffic if the theater has too many events. As I understand it, anything done by the school is not considered an event, so that could mean there will be more than 10 events at the building. I drink alcohol on occasion and am not against alcohol unless it causes problems. I don't have data on the net addition or subtraction of establishments providing alcohol over the past 10 years. But my sense is that we have more today than we did back then. There's a good side to alcohol served in small quantities, but there's also negative effects of alcohol as they affect the user, the family, and the community. I tried to find data online as to the community cost of alcohol, but only found one study from the University of Alaska at Anchorage. The first sentence was eye-opening. 1 out of every 3 minutes the Anchorage Police Department patrol officers spend with members of the public in the context of alcohol-related events. That's more than 45 minutes per shift. 14% of the patrol shift time is devoted to alcohol-related events. Overall, this officer time may comprise expenditures of over $5 million annually. Based on populations, that would mean 500,000 to Los Gatos. They're about 10 times larger than us. Though the events are to be relatively small and infrequent, the problem with each increment, whether it be traffic, parking, or alcohol related, they are all stacking up on top of the larger developments already underway. I can't emphasize enough that the big picture is more important than any individual project. As the town permits more and more alcohol to be served, the cost of the police department will continue to rise, and I believe the cost of the police department is one of the largest budget items we have on our budget that is operationally already running in the red. It is the council's responsibility to determine the dividing line between the Los Gatos we have and the one coined as Whiskey Gulch 20 years ago. I have heard theaters as a possibility for the North 40, and they certainly at this time have the space for a megaplex. If that were to happen, the Los Gatos Cinema will have to have a very wide established appeal to remain a theater, or they will become more of a meeting, conference, event center. I don't want to see that happen. Everything I have talked against, traffic, parking, and alcohol-related incidents will increase. I advocate the council providing restrictions that this theater remains a theater and events are minimized. The events should be on the second floor, and the first floor should remain a theater with regularly scheduled movies.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have questions for Mr. Van Naden? See none, thanks. I have one more card, so if anyone wants to speak, this is your opportunity to turn in your card. Last card, Maria Risto.
Hi, I'm Maria Risto, and I reside at 85 Broadway with my family. I'm speaking as the parent of a middle schooler and a high schooler, a downtown resident of over 20 years, and a very enthusiastic local business supporter. First of all, my family really misses the theater. The day it closed, I just thought, how am I going to wait another year till I can just walk downtown to a movie? And I'm not very happy that I had to drive to the last few. So I really am excited at the possibility that the theater will be back here. But this proposal both excites and concerns me. First of all, I think retaining the theater is important for downtown. A movie theater downtown serves all ages, teens, families, and adults. It brings people to downtown for a movie, but they may also eat and shop downtown. So I feel it's an attraction that benefits the other businesses. And perhaps the parking for a movie would be spread across the other businesses. So we already know what the parking situation is with a movie theater, and I don't see a big change. So there wouldn't be much more impact. And it serves a unique function in Los Gatos so far. I don't know what will happen with the North 40, but right now we don't have another theater. On the other hand, I'm very concerned that the theater could ultimately become a two-story event facility, and I think this would not serve downtown at all. My main concern when I read the staff report was the concept that the first floor could be rented out for special events. Then I'm seeing a possibility where both floors are rented out and there's not a movie being shown. This would lead to a large increase in traffic and parking for each event. Likely it would be a single stop, so the other businesses wouldn't see the same benefit as they would from a theater. It would be another business serving food and alcohol in a very intense area. And it doesn't serve a new function downtown. We already have the Opera House, the History Club, the Toll House, Hotel Los Gatos, and there's probably other rental facilities. So to summarize, I do support the proposed Los Gatos Theater renovation if it uses special events secondarily, and perhaps only on the second floor and remains a movie house. I request that the town council either restrict the CUP or send the CUP back so that it could be written for a movie house and then ultimately be able to be revisited if commercial movies are no longer shown. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thanks. All right, have another card. Jennifer Kroll.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Kroll, and I'm a local business owner, and I've lived here. I was born in this town, and my mother's a local business owner, as many friends of mine, and we all care very much what goes on downtown. It sounds to me that the oppositions to the theater have already been addressed in the new in all the everything that's happened. It sounds to me from just coming in on this. I wasn't going to speak, so I didn't have a some kind of speech prepared. However, I want to commend the passion behind not only the owners that decided to scoop up our theater and protect it and make it retain a theater. There are so many towns, San Francisco, Union Street, Chestnut Street, anywhere you look where theaters are being closed because they're not economically viable, and they're turned into retail space, restaurant space, if they even are actually rented. So I want to commend both the architect and the ownership about the passion and the thought process that has gone behind this this project. I think that the fact that they are wanting to raise money for our town with the proceeds, the fact that they want to do events for our kids, they want to do live theater, all kinds of things. I actually can't see one thing wrong with this theater, and I think that we should move ahead and actually approve it. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. All right, now I have a Chris Tedford, if I'm reading that correctly.
Madam Mayor, Town Council. I'm here in support of the theater. Several reasons. I was kind of surprised, but maybe not thoroughly, as to the emphasis on the alcohol being served. I think that there's plenty of events that will be going on there that probably won't require any alcohol, or not require, but have any alcohol, being children's events, birthday parties, different things like that. So I don't think every event is going to be alcohol related. And as to the impact downtown, from what I gathered, the seating was actually, I think, a little bit less than what is there already. So I'm not seeing as far as a general impact on the downtown area as a whole. I love the balcony concept. It adds, I don't want to say a vertical, but it adds a depth, a second layer of depth, but we don't get downtown. I know that there's some upstairs businesses, and I don't want to call out Mountain Charlie's as an example, but if some of those other businesses had some more depth, it draws your eye up there, and you know they would have loved to have something that was appealing or eye-catching as you're cruising through town. I've been a resident of this town for 50 years. Both my parents have grown up here, and I know that the ownership, I'd like to touch on, they're here not for their profit primarily. They're not here for ego. I know that the ownership is about community and providing, and I know that some of them haven't been here their whole life, but they do act as though they have been. They really love this community, and so I want to thank you guys for your consideration. I think it's a great project, and we'd be lucky to have it, so thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the speaker? No, thank you, sir. All right, I have no other cards. Is there anyone who wants to address us on this application before we turn it back to the applicant himself? Seeing none, Mr. Kolstad, would you like to come forward? You have 5 minutes. And while he's walking up here, why don't we do our disclosures? Mr. Przinski, we'll start with you.
I had a phone conversation with the applicant.
I've had a phone conversation with the architect and the applicant.
Mr. Leonardis?
I have nothing to disclose.
Phone conversation with the applicant.
I met with Mr. Kolstad after the Planning Commission's first meeting to discuss how the thing was going to go forward, if at all. And then I had a telephone conversation with the applicant where we discussed issues such as noise and the scope of the special activities. Back to you, 5 minutes.
Well, I was going to rebut on the alcohol and the parking and the traffic, but the speakers, I think, handled it pretty well. But just to reiterate, we should not be drawing any more traffic than is already approved and accounted for with the parking district. I know parking is tight, but this is how everything is approved, and that's the way that the rules are. And I think if you look at if the members of the community look at this draft of the conditional use permit conditions of approval, it's really clear that there's going to be great oversight on the operations, on the special events. We'll be dealing with the police. We'll do our best not to schedule events that are on high impact times and dates. We will do our diligence on vetting potential people that are using this space, and it's really designed for the community. That's what sets us apart from the Opera House, from Toll House. This is something that's more community-based. It's really it's a special space, and it's not going to be used all the time, and in fact, it can't be used all the time. We're required at least to spend 75% of our operating hours showing movies. That's at a minimum, which is over 300 days per year. So the likelihood of a Saturday night where there's not a movie showing is very, very rare. And we might be having a play that runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, something like that. There might be a play in the daytime or a musical in the daytime when you have movies at night. And so really we're here to show movies, to bring the community together, come and have a coffee. You know, it'll be a little special and a little different than you're used to. It's going to be really first class.
Questions for Mr. Kolstad? Mr. Leonardis?
Thank you, Mayor Spector. Mr. Kolstad, trying to envision this concession stand and how that would work as a food prep area for the upstairs.
Maybe I could clarify, because I knew that we didn't get that. The concession stand on the lower floor is meant for movies, for popcorn, candy, those kind of things. sodas, coffee. That's where the normal operations concessions will be held. When we're having a special event on the upper floor in that second screening room, there is a separate bar concession stand that service will be held from that location. Food will be brought up. You might have a catering truck. You might have catering coming in through this back door, up the elevator. It's very conveniently planned to be able to serve the guests for the special events from the second floor.
If I could again ask staff to show A4 that shows the service area on the second story. We can just leave that up for the balance of the meeting.
Okay, this is the second floor, and this is the theater from here this way. There's a screen, there's seating here. There's a small concession counter right there that someone could go behind, and you can serve food. Food will not be prepared on site. That's not part of our conditional use permit application. That's a whole separate thing with health and everything. We're not getting into that. We're only bringing in food. So it's only needs to be stored for a short time and then served.
So, follow-up question, there won't be any utilities such as a sink or an oven or anything like that in that area? Like, I don't see it drawn in, so.
We're allowed to have sinks.
Okay.
But there won't be any cooking. There'll be reheating if that is allowed, but we're only going to follow the way that the health department lets us do that.
All right. I have
Go ahead.
one more non-related question. Suppose there's a movie showing downstairs and you have a special event scheduled upstairs simultaneously. Is that possible? Is that in the plan to have two events running at the same time?
Yes, we've answered this question quite a bit. So yeah, we've looked at that and we studied how that would work, and that's certainly probably going to be the norm, where you're going to have the main theater showing your movies. When you have a special event, it'll be contained upstairs, and the sound won't affect either one, nor should the people, unless they want to go watch that movie after they've been to their special event.
So you don't anticipate any noise trickling down from the upstairs special event area into the main theater area?
It wouldn't trickle down into the theater. It could trickle down into the lobby, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's separate. It's just like it is now. I mean, you can have noise in the lobby, and you don't hear it in the theater itself.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions? Mr. Kolstad, based upon hearings we've had here previously where neighbors on Broadway had experiences with the Toll House and with Los Gatos Bar and Grill, noise emanating from those. And so I am sensitive to those concerns, also because I live downtown. Even though the Planning Commission has prohibited entertainment on the second floor of your theater, it is still possible to have amplified music, for example. Correct?
That's correct.
All right. How would you address the fact that if you have the balcony door, let's see, what did you call the outside balcony? If you have the outside balcony door open or slid open, that amplified music will go outside of your premises, and we don't know where it will go to. That is of concern to me. So why don't you tell me why it shouldn't be a concern to me, or what we can do about it?
Well, I think you first have to look at the type of events we're hoping to have. They're not going to be big parties that are going to have loud music. If you ever go to a party, the music's there, but it's more background. It's not the event that you're going to see. If you're going to go see a live band, you're there to hear the music. We're not having live music like that. So you're not going there to necessarily see that cause of sound. So first of all, the sounds are not going to be that loud. They'll probably be louder during a movie. However, of course, the doors will be shut, and so that'll be contained. We will be working with the police and all the time on this, and if there's problems, we will try to head them off at the pass. But also, you have to look at the theater. It's kind of unique because it's only facing the town, and the commercial district is several blocks deep at that point. So the likelihood of noise coming from that second floor out of the doors onto the balcony and then reaching back to residents is very unlikely.
Let's assume that
Physics.
Okay, let's assume that I could imagine the noise coming out from the outside balcony over the businesses across the street and then into neighborhoods. Is there any sense it can be amplified? And since this is a conditional use permit that may or may not stay with you and your owners, is there any problem with closing the door of the outside balcony when there is amplified music up on the second floor?
It sounds like what you're asking is to put a condition or regulation on the fact that when there's loud music or when there's music going on, amplified music, that the doors need to be closed. And I think that's a slippery slope. I think asking for that kind of a condition can be very tricky to police, to justify, actually. And it's, I'm not sure exactly what you're suggesting, but if that's what you're suggesting, I don't know if that's going to be received well by the ownership group.
But when you say that it's problematic or it's a slippery slope, again, why don't you explain to me why that is?
Well, I think that we already have an operation plan requirement. We're going to be explaining to the staff what we're doing. We're special events. If you imagine if you were at an event and you had some music going and the doors were open, it was a beautiful night, and you went outside and you were talking loud and laughing, that might be louder than amplified music. So the slippery slope is what type of noise. It's not just amplified noise. It could be other noise. And so are you going to try to regulate laughing or talking or shouting? I think that's difficult to regulate. So it gets into those layers of regulation that.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Brzezinski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In its November 14th meeting, the Planning Commission set a number of expectations that are reflected in our conditional use permit as it's in front of us. Some of them I thought were fairly rigorous and outside the direction that the ownership group had taken initially. I want to confirm what I think I heard from you, that all of those expectations that are now reflected in the conditional use permit are acceptable and deemed as appropriate to your business plan as you've indicated to this point.
Yes, they are. The one item that we had a little bit of a concern about was the need to bring back for the one-year review to make it a public hearing. We think that's just going to be something that's going to shine in our favor. If you make that a condition, we're up for the challenge, and I think that might make people in the community a little bit less reluctant to support this.
Well, if I might just make a quick comment, that coupled with the operational agreement and the proviso that says that the police chief has the opportunity to, in effect, monitor and impact any events that are taking place or any reports of negative impacts that would come to us. I wanted just to, from my point of view, indicate that those are all acceptable to you. That is correct.
That's correct.
All right. And as a matter of fact, you like the idea of coming back a year later to demonstrate how successful
We're warming
you've
up
been.
to that, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. There were a couple of comments made in our public testimony that seemed somewhat confused about where these individual special events are going to take place. I heard someone say that the whole theater could be a special event, or that you could have the alcohol downstairs as well as upstairs. I think it's fairly clearly delineated that that is not the case. Am I accurate in highlighting that?
Maybe not 100%. If you look at item number 4, the special events, I'm sorry. It is.
The end of condition 9.
It got rewritten in the desk item. That basically what it says is that special events will only be held upstairs.
That's right.
Unless special approval is granted.
That's right.
By the police for
And
special events.
the reason
in the
why
main
I
floor.
mentioned that was that was called out, was that had to be permitted. It wasn't just, we have a large group, we'll just hang out downstairs, in terms of how the CUP is written.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And all of these special events have to have advance notice, a minimum of 2 weeks. We would prefer a month, so we could put it on a calendar. We'll have a calendar that's posted online. It'll also be subscribed to Flickster and those other movie events. So if you're thinking about going to see a movie downtown Los Gatos and you don't know what's playing, or if anything is playing, there's certainly ways to find out.
Okay, thank you.
Let me follow up on that. So is it possible for an event, as you understand it, to occur at the theater that utilizes both the second floor and the first floor, and to have food and drink as part of that?
Yes, that is a possibility in this conditional use permit.
All right. Okay. Other questions?
If I may clarify, only if approved by the police chief, 14 days in advance.
That's what.
As a special events permit?
That involves the main auditorium.
And is that special event that is approved by the police department included within the 10 events per month?
It is defined as a special event, so yes, it would be.
All right. Ms. McNutt.
Thank you, Mayor. Just trying to process what you were just saying. So let me just go through this and make sure everyone's talking the same thing. You can have a movie going in the downstairs theater. You can have a movie going in the upstairs showing room, correct? You can have a special event in the upstairs room with alcohol. You can have a special event in the downstairs theater without alcohol. You can have a special event in the downstairs theater with alcohol only if you beg permission from the police chief. And all of the special events, whether they're upstairs or downstairs, cumulative cannot be more than 10 a month. And you must have first-run theater productions, movies, not X-rated, at least 300 days a year, correct?
With the exception of the caveat of first-run movies.
Okay. It's called, what do we call it in here? New feature?
The primary use of the building continues to be a movie theater showing new feature-length films, excluding X-rated films, in the main theater for at least 75% of all actual operating hours in 300 days per year. So it is
So new feature length is that?
Thank you, Mr. Larson, because that we also would want the opportunity to show art films and classics and films that aren't necessarily new. So that is some language that we would actually like you guys to look at and adjust for us. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
So the word new may be problematic.
Yes.
Okay. And on another business downtown that has an outdoor balcony, they have a cutoff time of 10 or 11. If there was a cutoff time for the outdoor balcony where the doors have to be shut after a certain period of time, would that be problematic for you?
It wouldn't be preferred, but if the cutoff times were reasonable, I think we could talk about that, yes.
Okay. That concludes my questions.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Leonardis.
Thank you, Mayor Spector. This is for staff. So the capacity of the theater is about 400 total, presuming a movie is being shown. Is that correct?
388 total.
388. So when we have a special event, is there a different capacity when alcohol is being served?
No, the capacity of the second floor area is 94, and that's included in the 388.
Okay. So is it safe to assume that there could be 388 people drinking at a special event if it is inclusive of the whole theater?
Only if approved by the police chief 14 days in advance.
Okay.
And no more than 10 times per month.
And regarding the special events, is there going to be any specific age restrictions? In other words, are we going to have, say somebody books the whole theater and there's adults and kids together, is there going to be wine and beer served among children and teens and other things?
I think it's probably a more appropriate condition or question for the applicant. I don't believe that's the intent.
It would depend on, I think, the type of event. If it's a private event, the rules are a little bit different, and obviously we would work with the police department and the ABC on that, on the rules of that. If it's a special event that is borne by the theater, then that's illegal to have, anybody under 21 when you're selling alcohol in a theater like that.
The staff have any input on the issue just raised by Mr. Leonardis?
Obviously, it's subject to ABC regulations and the permit type that is ultimately achieved. It would be separately regulated by the police chief as to the approval that would be granted for any alcohol service in the main auditorium. Where I see there wouldn't be the separate review by the police chief is if there were to be a showing that was a private event or fundraiser for a nonprofit or a private event for a family, that is a family-oriented event downstairs that's closed to the public, but it's a showing of a movie for kids and friends and family. And then upstairs is allowed for alcohol service. That would be for only adults in the upstairs alcohol service. So parents could arguably be upstairs and kids downstairs.
All right, before we get to, I think there's going to be other questions for staff, but before we get there, any additional questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I will now close the public hearing and turn to the council, and let's begin with any questions for staff. Mr. Leonardis.
Thank you, Mayor Spector. Just one question. Just wanted to know if the current CUP allowed for live stage presentations.
It's silent. It doesn't address it.
Thank you.
Other questions of staff? Question with regard to, we seem to have moved a lot of the questions and issues that came up to the police and the operational agreement, or maybe a special event. So my question is, if the applicant needs to go to a special events or to the operational agreement, what are the parameters that are placed on those processes?
I think there are a number of protections embodied in the CUP as written. For example, a special event requires notice to the police chief 14 days in advance. So it could not be a spontaneous event that becomes a special event. It is a planned programmed activity as specified under condition number 16. Second, the police chief approval is only for these special events on the main auditorium, which clearly sets a procedural disincentive for having special events downstairs, while the special events upstairs or any special events in the theater, with the exception of school-based theatrical and musical productions, would be limited to 10 times a month. In terms of what the operating agreement would handle, those typically handle issues such as security measures required, crowd and age control, and alcoholic beverage control. It would typically handle handling of complaints and resolution of complaints if received, and those permits issued through the operating agreement or by special discretion of the police chief would not be for a whole array of activities, what would be for special event by special event. So past performance would be an indicator of future approvals.
And thank you. And following up on that, you said that with regard to the main auditorium, the process would go by way of a notice to the police chief. And is it simply a notice, or is there any discretion exercised by the police chief? And if so, within what parameters?
Specifically what the condition calls for, and it's number 16 on page 2 of the conditions attached to the desk item. The operator shall provide notice to the police department at least 14 days in advance of a special event to ensure that adequate security measures and other related measures, including traffic control, are provided and implemented during the event. Details such as the type of event, maximum attendance hours, and any information relative to public safety requested by the police department shall be provided when notice is given. So that's for any and all special events. For alcohol, that is to be provided in the main auditorium, it says separately up under condition 9, special events in the main theater may not include service of alcoholic beverages unless approved in advance by the police department, and the service of alcohol is restricted to the hours stated above. And then there's under 10, there's a further one for movies after 10, but that's not relevant to this condition. So the chief actually has two separate authorities. One is notice of any and all special events, whether or not alcohol is served, whether upstairs or downstairs. Separate is the police chief has approval authority over any alcohol service for any special event downstairs.
All right, thank you. All right, other questions of staff? Mr. Leonardis.
Thank you, Mayor Spector. Couple other questions. Regarding some theaters in our area that have similar uses, like the one up in St. Helena, there's one in Redwood City. Did our staff go to those theaters and review what their policies and procedures were before drafting this document, the CUP?
No, staff did not visit either of those premises.
We have reviewed the websites for the marketing and advertising of those facilities, but staff did not travel to the venues.
Follow-up question, if I may. So we're not aware if those are serving alcohol or hard alcohol or not?
The Cameo does serve alcohol under a special events permit from the jurisdiction and the ABC. I would ask the applicant to confirm or provide additional information if the council wishes to pursue that question.
Mr. Leonardis, do you want additional information on that issue?
I'd just like to know if it's wine and beer only or if it is hard alcohol.
Mr. Kolstad, if you can come up here and just address the issue of if any of the theaters mentioned, Palo Alto, Redwood City, and St. Helena, if any of those have liquor and to what extent.
Madam Chair, just a point of order before the applicant speaks. Is it your intent to reopen the public hearing just for that limited purpose of answering the question?
Just for the limited purpose of answering that specific question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Cameo serves all types of alcohol for special events. That's a small town, and they don't have any problems. It's a community treasure. We've done a lot of research and talking with the operator over the last year and a half, and they've been one of our models for doing what we're doing.
Thank you. How about Palo Alto or Redwood City?
Redwood City is a completely different animal. That's a theater that's for live music and stage and all that kind of stuff. And they have a full bar. That place is pretty fun. But it's completely different. It's not what we're doing here. And the Stanford, I'm not sure if the Stanford, they show movies and have small events.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Mr. Leonardis.
Only one more, I promise. And this is also for staff. Have we considered the ramifications of the outdoor balcony seating? This is our main thoroughfare in our shopping district, and we're going to have people right above people pushing strollers and walking their dogs and shopping and coming to downtown Los Gatos for that kind of ambiance. And there may be people up on the balcony, as one of our council members up here alluded to, shouting or maybe smoking cigarettes or, oops, I spilled my drink. And I know we have this kind of arrangement at the Diodeca resident or hotel here, but it's about 30 feet back from the sidewalk or more, maybe 40 feet back from the sidewalk. And these guys are going to be 10 feet above people's heads. So I just have a concern with that, if our staff has taken that into consideration.
It was an interesting and novel aspect that we haven't faced in downtown before with this application. And I believe when we've considered it, we've looked first, it wouldn't be an open balcony that would be unsupervised. For example, you already heard the applicant express that the doors to the balcony would be closed when it's being used as a movie theater. So when there's public access, the doors would be closed, so there's not danger of unsupervised patrons of the upstairs movie theater going out on the balcony. That leaves you with the only time the balcony would be open is for special events, which would be specially scheduled events subject to the operating agreement of the town. Obviously, when the plan check comes in for review of the balcony and any walling and screening, that will need to consider pedestrian safety as well as safety of the occupants of the mezzanine. I did want to use this as an opportunity to answer another question, since you referenced it as well, which is smoking. We believe the town's current smoking code, in response to the review staff just did, would prohibit smoking if it was fixed seating, but it might possibly allow smoking if it was movable seating. So if the council did want to prohibit smoking on the outdoor balcony, that should be explicitly called for just as a precaution.
Other questions, Mr. Leonardis?
Just to follow up to Mr. Larson's comment, I want to believe that most people will follow the rules, and if there is fixed seating, which there appears to be out on that balcony, they will not be smoking. But I also think that there will be those individuals who will use the doors to go in and out and use it as a smoking platform. And I have a feeling that there will be cigarette butts falling. So it's just my general thoughts on that.
Other questions before we get into our discussion? I have a question for Mr. Larson on the outdoor balcony. Keep circling back to that. I continue to have concerns about noise coming through the open doors of the outdoor balcony. And thinking about what has just been said up here at the dais, new concerns about the safety of an event going on upstairs, and then people being out on the balcony and being over our highly traveled street. Has the staff consider to these issues, and if so, what conclusions, if any?
Again, staff did consider these issues, and for the no more than 10 events per month that could occur with the operating agreement, we thought those issues could be managed and addressed, especially with police chief review for public safety purposes as need be. I think other suggestions that have come up during the course of the conversation that have varying degrees of interest by the applicant, but that's obviously between the council action and the applicant, would be limiting the hours of balcony access, as was brought up by one council member, or having doors that close during special events or otherwise.
Thank you. All right, it doesn't look like we have any more questions, so I'll look for council discussion or a motion. Ms. McNutt?
Thank you, Mayor. So I grew up in Willow Glen, and my heart just cries every time I drive down Lincoln Avenue and I see the old Garden Theater that we lost to retail. The marquee is still there, but the theater's gone. And I'm sure the current residents of Willow Glen wish that someone had come forward and saved it the way that we have been fortunate to have these families come forward and try to do something special for the town of Los Gatos. So thank you for everything that you are planning to do for us. I am very comfortable with this application. I think it's gone through very rigorous review by staff, certainly by Planning Commission. I think the conditions are very specific, and those of you who've had some questions tonight, I'm not sure you've had a chance to really read through the CUP, because as we've referenced in our conversation here, it is very, very specific on hours of operation, on numbers of days that there has to be films, numbers of special events, and so on. It's not increasing the amount of seating that's currently approved, so therefore it's not going to be an additional drain on parking. It's not changing, expanding the hours of what's currently approved, but it's really taking a long-standing asset in the community and making it very, very special. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion for discussion by the council, and that is going to be to move the staff's recommendation in the staff report, both 1 and 2, that refers to both the architecture and site and the CUP, with the following changes. On conditions number 6, 8, and 14, where it says balcony, change that wording to outdoor balcony, just for clarification. And then on number 14, which refers to balcony, it currently says a bar shall not be set up on the balcony during special events. And I think we need to add a sentence that says, no smoking shall be allowed on the outdoor balcony. And on condition number 3, in the third line, remove the word new in front of feature length so that I can have my classic films down there, as well as current releases. And I believe that is all of the changes that I'm prepared to make at this time, and we'll see if we get a second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember McNutt, seconded by Councilmember Rice. Do we have discussion? Mr. Rice.
Yeah, I want to echo Councilmember McNutt's positive comments. I want to make a couple of other points. The fundamental points, as I see it, are two things, one of which hasn't really been mentioned. One is we're going to save a real treasure in this town. The second thing that nobody's mentioned that I think is phenomenal is we're going to add a nice small retail spot in town that we don't currently have. We are often getting comments about we need small spaces that independent businesses can rent, and here's another one. So that's a great thing. With regards to the outdoor balcony, some of us that have been here long enough remember when that balcony was used. in the 60s and 70s. I don't think that's necessarily a new use. It might be a new reuse, but that outdoor balcony has been used many, many times. I do want to address the concerns that a couple of people brought up and point out that the concerns, while they're absolutely valid about traffic and about alcohol and things like that, all are on the premise that this is a successful enterprise. And gosh, I hope that's true, because to be successful, it has to be economically viable. And we do not sit here and pass judgment on a business person's business plan. Our goal and our responsibility is to regulate the use. And I see nothing here that makes me concerned. And in fact, I loved Mr. Colsatt's comment of you're looking forward to coming back in a year and having a grade report given to you. And I'm hoping it's an A+. I think the only question that I would ask to the maker of the motion is if she would be open. I do share the mayor's concern about noise on the balcony of some limit, maybe midnight on Fridays and Saturdays, and what I came up with was midnight on Fridays and Saturdays and 11 o'clock Sunday through Thursday for the use of the outdoor balcony. I think that would be prudent. I don't think it's a necessity, but I think that would be a nice, an appropriate time to close that outdoor balcony to use.
Are you finished, Mr. Rice?
I am done.
Okay, we have a question to the maker of the motion.
Certainly, I'm open to that amendment, and let's go with your suggested hours and see where that goes in the discussion.
Okay, then I'll propose that as an amendment, Madam Mayor.
And it was 12 o'clock Friday and Saturday and 11 o'clock.
Sunday through Thursday for the use of the outdoor balcony.
All right, so that is acceptable to the maker of the motion. You are the seconder of the motion. Further discussion? Mr. Brzezinski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, first of all, there was a theme here. We want this theater to return, but return vigorously and in a way that it has not been able to be executed in as many years as I can remember now. First of all, I want to commend the applicant and the architect for the architectural and structural proposals that they've made and have been approved by and recommended to us by the Planning Commission. I think that this is going to be an icon in the downtown. If you look at the theater in its current iteration, it really is not a very significant structure. In the course of time, it has been diminished as a venue. I remember going in there when there was one theater and you had all the gargoyles on the walls and everything on the ceiling, and it's like, who was thinking when they decided to turn it into basically two theaters and eliminate all that? So we're going to go back to a time, and we're going to actually become better than we were with the architectural recommendations. I think the concept is a really interesting concept. I've certainly spent enough time in theaters, not only here in California, but other places in the world, where it's not uncommon to have alcohol service at intermission. Somehow people are able to accommodate that. Somehow we have a relatively mature population that goes to theater. I would think that some of the concerns that have been expressed are an attempt to see how do we protect ourselves from a nightclub venue. And I don't see this as a nightclub venue. And I think that's part of the issue for me is we want to make sure that as you look at our conditions of use, we have made it really clear that that's not the intent, and nor is it the intent of the applicant that this be an additional nightclub. I, for my part, am not concerned about the outdoor balcony use and projectiles raining down on the sidewalk. I don't really think that's an issue. I don't think that's going to happen. I really do think that probably most people will be very responsible. And if there are kids out there doing something, I would hope the parents intervene to keep them from acting out. But from my purposes, I don't see that as an issue. I'm very appreciative of the no smoking clause that we're inserting. I think that is appropriate, although I think we've done a fairly decent job in town of eliminating smoking in our public venues. As far as some of the other issues, someone mentioned the North 40 and the possibility of a Cineplex. Being on the North 40 committee, I think we made it real clear there's no intention to put a Cineplex out there. In fact, the way it was characterized when we did our discussions about the North 40 usage was we do want to protect the Los Gatos Cinema. And that would be the primary reason for not seeing a multiplex out there, because of the Los Gatos Cinema. I think that Ms. Krall's comment that so much has been, in effect, included in the conditional use permit document by our Planning Commission, that most of the questions answered or asked have been answered already tonight, if we look carefully at the CUP. And then Mr. Telford's comments that this is really a community event sponsored by people who are committed to the community is our most significant safety valve. That's what's going to prevent any of these untoward things from happening, because community people will not allow things to happen that are going to detract from the community. I think we've got ourselves in trouble before. It's if a proprietor or an operator of a venue did not take the responsibility to the community seriously. And that's why we've had issues in the past. I don't see this in this particular application or in this particular operator. So I feel very comfortable supporting this motion with the amendments so proposed.
Further discussion? Mr. Leonardis.
Thank you, Mayor Spector. I also agree that it is a great design, and I'm grateful for the owners for preserving the theater. I think that's an important piece of our town. There are some unanswered questions that I was hoping for more clarity on, especially, I guess where it comes down to for me is I've been to a lot of school events, and we have the events where you go and you watch the plays, and you have the events where only the parents attend and you serve beer and wine and mixed drinks. And you keep those things separated. I'm hoping that this will, should it be approved this evening, keep that in mind. I'm still concerned about the lack of research done by our staff, especially since we have a couple prime examples in the Bay Area. I don't know why we were not given examples of their CUPs. I realize that this has been sent through pretty quickly, and I didn't even have a chance to meet with the applicant. I was just contacted by them last Thursday, and I wish I would have had more time. Again, I'm not going to be supporting the motion because I have some concerns, but I do like the architecture, and I do believe in preservation of the theater. But I think there's a big difference between having a few friends come to your theater in a special event and watching the Super Bowl and the Kentucky Derby and drinking beer and wine and whatever else, and then inviting 400 strangers in and closing the whole thing and having a 400-seat bar. I do believe in our police force, but I also believe that our resources are stretched pretty thin. We do have to watch a lot of bars in town, and we have a situation where like cell phones, you hope everybody obeys the law. These are the rules. Don't talk on your phone when you're driving. But there will be those folks that step outside the line, and we're not going to have much opportunity to cure that. I want to believe in the faith that everyone will abide, but that's just not the case. And I feel like it just needs a little more vetting. I'm kind of 50-50 on this one, but I'm not going to support the motion this evening.
Thank you. Question of staff. I'm also on the fence on this one, and I'll get into more of an explanation in a bit. But the question is, if down the line, after the theater opens, and we are finding that there is noise emanating from the outdoor balcony, or there are things that are coming over, in spite of Mr. Brzezinski's good belief in folks, things coming over the balcony down onto the walking populace. What are the options for people who are concerned with those issues?
Mayor and Council, two options. One, the operating agreement is explicitly to deal with matters of concern to public safety. So, for example, noise, which creates complaints that police and or other staff have to respond to, as well as items dropped over the edge of the outdoor balcony would certainly be issues we could consider in the operating agreement and specify remedial processes or further limitations if there should be recurring problems in either of those areas. So I will, as we do always, we take council concerns and try to address them as we move projects forward. And certainly the noise and safety of issues going off the balcony are issues that have been expressed by some council members. I also wanted to address, certainly if Planning Commission or council ever asks before a meeting that we provide conditional use permits or other information, we will endeavor to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. And along that line, may the council request receipt of a copy of the operating agreement?
Absolutely, it is a public document.
All right, and so I'll make that request to please provide the council members with a copy of the operating agreement drafted for this application.
So noted.
Mr. Brzezinski.
Just kind of a clarifying comment. I don't agree with the comment made that the staff somehow was in error in not providing multiple conditional use documents from other agencies. I don't think that is standard for us, and I do want to commend the staff for the work done and the clarity and comprehensive nature of the conditional use permit document as we received it, and also, commend the Planning Commission for the work they did, particularly in the November meeting, to make sense out of all this and to make this a much more rigorous presentation so we could make this decision tonight. I think the other issue is we cannot control every behavior of everyone in this community. Some people cross against the light. And I think that if we are in the situation where somehow we have to be able to be so much in charge of every human behavior, then it's not something that makes any sense, frankly. If there are abuses taking place, we have an excellent police department that enforces our laws and does it in a way that really is community oriented, and we are all proud of those individuals. I think if there were issues that occur as a result of this particular use, then the community will respond and our police will take care of the issues. And I do believe that, as I understand it, the property managers, the owners, and all those involved will be very much on top of the situation and reinforce whatever police action needs to take place.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, my turn. The easiest thing, this is a great application. And the easiest thing to do when you're sitting on this side of the dais is just vote yes and get on with life, because everybody will love you. The kids will love you, and the parents will love you, and everybody who's waiting, Maria Risto and her family will love you because they're waiting for the theater to open up again. And it's a lot harder to sit over here and raise issues. But, and you've heard it before, the conditional use permit that we craft runs with the land. And when you have wonderful applicants who are operating the facility, it might run magnificently. But down the line, it might cause a problem when somebody else owns it. And we are the stewards not only of the folks sitting here this evening, but the folks throughout the whole town. And that's why, I had concerns about whether or not it was really always going to truly be a movie theater, because that's what we're here to approve. Everybody in this room, and probably everybody in town, wants this movie theater. And I am concerned that when you have 10 special events a month, it may be that, the movie production companies will not give you first-run movies or whatever kind of movie we're ultimately going to have. So I do have concern about that. And I know that there are people in this town who live downtown who've had problems with the noise at the Toll House and the noise at the Los Gatos Bar and Grill. And so I would like to think that, the people who own these businesses would just take care of it. But sometimes people who own businesses don't just take care of it. And sometimes the people who live around them have to wait even years before they get remedies. Not right away. It just takes years. So all of these issues are of concern to me. I'm probably going to come out on the side of voting for this, in favor of it, because of the limitations that were placed on the outdoor balcony, which for me seems to be of the greatest concern, and the fact that more likely than not, with the police overview, we won't have this theater becoming solely a special events venue, and that the downstairs will truly remain a movie theater. But that is not without actually serious concerns that I have. So, further discussion. Mr. Brzezinski.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to say for the record, saying yes isn't always the easiest thing. All you have to do is read the letters to the editor in the weekly, and it makes it real clear that there are people who have different opinions, and that's what makes democracy work, is that we are able to voice our opinions and sometimes take stances that don't necessarily appeal to 100% of the community, but hopefully are for the benefit of the greatest number of the community. And I think ultimately what we see a lot of times is these things that are somewhat controversial end up being really good for the community. And I think that's why making these decisions is worthwhile, saying yes or saying no.
Further discussion. Mr. Brzezinski, Mr. Leonardis.
We'll get used to that new seating arrangement soon. Thank you, Mayor Spector. To echo the comments made by Councilmember Brzezinski, I do believe that the public is eager to have this theater move forward, and its absence is something we all greatly miss. I just feel like this particular project, I don't believe it is controversial. I think this is very straightforward compared to some of the things that we've seen. But I think it's kind of like 2 weeks too quick. I think this could have been a 5-0 vote. I sit up here as a member of the public as well. Nobody wants to be out on that balcony more than myself. I mean, I think that's a great idea, and I know I could behave myself out there and have a good time and enjoy the weather and enjoy Los Gatos. But at the same time, I have to think of the general welfare of everybody in the community, and that's why I have these concerns. And I just put a lot of thought into this. Again, I really love the idea that the owners are moving this forward as a theater. I love the design. I do have a lot of faith in our police department, but I also realize they have a lot of bars and things to keep track of on Friday and Saturday night. And I feel like if we would have just spent a little more time on this up front, this could have been a 5-0 vote. So I just want to leave it with that. Thank you.
Further discussion. Seeing none, we have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
4-1. Seeing nothing else on our agenda, I will adjourn the meeting.